welcome to another episode of Community Conversations with Tyrone Darden on TAAN TV, where the topic of discussion today is education. We have our guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Adam Kazim. Good to see you, Tyrone.
Well, give me a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a father. I am a community member. I am a preacher. I am a believer in justice and the love of God, and I'm happy to be here.
Got it. I love God too, just so you know. Top of mind. So this next speak's gonna be top of mind. The first thing that comes to mind when I say this phrase, it could be a word, it could be a phrase, it could be a sentence. School choice.
Good luck.
Good luck. Now I've heard freedom, and I've said equality. I need you to expound on good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the concern with school choice is more at a macro level than a micro level, right? And I want to make sure that I support the notion of the previous guest, who's incredibly credentialed and want her to be successful, but I'm speaking at a macro level, right? Mm-hmm. These folks are operating within their communities, trying to do things to affect their community. And what's taking place there is good. They're taking advantage of what they can take advantage of, right? But at a macro level, I think you talk about school choice as a matter of luck. Look, the reality is the United States is the only place in the world where I can really, with good accuracy, predict the likelihood of success of a child based on their zip code. 10, 12 years out. And that's just the reality, right? And so you say, well, we introduced school choice, and that kind of changes the game there, but it doesn't change the game for everybody, because you've still got financial limitations, transportation limitations associated with the choices that you have around you, right? Which in all cases may not be as good as the school that Mrs. Vicks is putting together, right? But
Mrs. Johnson.
Mrs. Johnson, I apologize. And I think when we're talking about the options and true choice, the true choice is the playing field should be leveled for everybody. But even with choice, it's still not leveled for everybody if I'm not able to choose the best because of where I live or because of my economic situation.
That makes a lot of sense. It sounds like a lack of equity, maybe, that everyone doesn't have a fair chance to be at the same level playing field, but maybe it's not. Give me a little bit more.
Well, look, I think it's 100% a lack of equity. What would be I think we need to look at this and say, what would be the best way to do it, right? And the best way to do it would be to, the current system today is it's all based on taxes. And so naturally, if you live in an affluent area, you're going to have more taxes going towards the education system in that area. You're going to be able to hire better teachers, have better equipment, have better programs, have better stuff, and those children are going to be educated better. And that's indisputable, right? And so naturally, where does the failure in equity take place? It takes place in black and brown neighborhoods with black and brown children, right? And I'm speaking as a father of a brown child who I'm actually about to take my daughter to Howard University next week.
Congratulations.
Right? She got accepted to Howard. And but I was blessed to be in a situation to where for part of her schooling, I was able to put her in private school. I was able to take advantage of those things. Whereas myself, I grew up in the public school system 100%, as did you. And so I think these things are indisputable. They're facts 100% across the board. So, and again, macro level conversation, and I don't want to be controversial here, but here we've got an administration that's about to completely gut the Department of Education. The Department of Education is the body that looks out for the civil inequities, right? Making sure that civil rights are enforced in these schools and that the distribution of these billions of dollars is done in a manner that doesn't favor one community, one type of person, or one thing over another. And so I think again, at a micro level, school choice, yeah, let's do what we can. But how can we empower these schools to have more money, right? Should Ms. Johnson's school have any less money than, whatever public school ISD next door on a per child basis? Certainly she shouldn't. I think they should all be the same, but today they're not.
And I think those are excellent points. When I think about school choice from a traditional standpoint, I think about traditional schools like ISDs. In the last 30 years, we've had charters here in Texas. And now, we have our private schools that could potentially be funded by the education savings account. What's your take on, quote unquote, taxpayer money funding private schools?
Setting aside this church and state separation, right? As a believer, I'm all for that. But we do have a constitution, and there are smarter people and legal minds that can, should probably deal with that. I think it's fine if it's done in a truly equitable fashion,
Okay.
right? On a per head basis, on a per student basis, is Mrs. Johnson's school going to get the same amount of dollars per student as somebody in the Judson Independent School District? And if not, it's not equitable.
Got you.
I mean, and I'm happy to hear the argument on the other side, but how can you say if this student over here is getting $6,000 per year or per whatever it is, and the accumulation of vouchers or additional federal funding lands around $2,000 to $3,000 per student? We're just perpetuating the inequity that we know already exists in society, and that's just a furtherance of this systemic problem that we have that starts well before a child walks into the school on their first day of school.
We're definitely going to continue the conversation, but before we break, I want your take on the separation of church versus state piece, because another guest, Mrs. Johnson, stated that that's a myth. It doesn't exist, and I'm kind of erring on that side as well. But ultimately, there are a lot of people that feel like religion should not be in public schools. What's your take on that?
Well, look, it's been said before, but as long as they have tests, there'll be religion in school, right? Because these kids will pray that they pass the test.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us, particularly as Christians, for those that are part of the Christian community, to look at this and say, this isn't a conversation about whether or not I bring religion to school. And I think we say, oh yeah, there's religion in schools because I was part of these, various groups, or we had prayers, but that's because you brought it to school, not because they brought it to school. And we've got to be very careful about saying, yes, I don't want a separation of church and state, because that doesn't just mean your church, right? If they allow, according to how our, system of government and laws and things are, the law states, the government shall make shall no sponsor any particular religion. So we love talking about let's not separate church and state whenever it comes to talking about praying in school and us having but if we're talking about freedom and equality and all of those things, you've got to allow that for Muslims, and you got to allow that for Buddhists, and you got to allow that for witches, and you got to allow that for atheists, and you got to allow that for anybody else that comes up with a religion that they invented, 3 months ago. And so I think we just kind of have to expand our thought a little bit whenever we take those positions relative to church and state. We'll always bring it to school, but I think we got to be careful about saying that we want the school to bring it to us.
Yeah, and you saying those things make me think about furries, and that is very confusing to me. And maybe to some people, Christianity is confusing. But the reality of it is, and I like how you put it, when we bring it to school, not the school bring it to us. There's no denying that. What we're going to do is we're going to put a pin in that. And I want you to share with the TAAN viewers just how we can continue this conversation, because I think it's important. What's at the highest leverage for you that you think that we should keep talking about?
I think, first of all, we have to become educated, right?
Yeah, okay.
And understand the stats and understand what's going on. Again, at a macro level, the United States is not the greatest in the world, right? We're 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th in various subjects, math, science, and literacy in the world. One of the reasons, so I am not only taking my beautiful daughter to Howard next week, but I also have a 2-year-old son. So now I have to think about the next round.
Yeah.
And I'm not excited about taking my son to a school in the United States. And that's because of school violence and school shootings. And what are we doing about that? So I think we have to become educated. We have to broaden our understand the concepts and things that are associated with it so we can speak to it, not from an emotional standpoint, but from a factual one.
Well, as preacher Adam Zarb Kazim stated, good luck with school choice, and we'll continue the conversation.